welcome to this short video where I'll provide a brief overview of the 7 chapters within my book, Advancing Entrepreneurship Education within Universities, Concepts and Practices for Teaching and Support. The book comes out at the end of this year with Palgrave Macmillan, and I hope you enjoy it. So, let's get started. In introducing this book, I present the core and surrounding topics and themes central to advancing entrepreneurship education in universities. This focused acknowledgement of both concepts and practices for teaching and supportive activities is fundamental in developing creative and innovative education and achieving learning outcomes. Considerations from the educational context are outlined, along with highlighting the distinct benefits of this book to a wide audience within and out with higher education institutions. These considerations include briefly introducing entrepreneurship and its impact on universities today, current progressions within the taught and research field, and noting the key individuals within the educational environment who influence and encourage entrepreneurial behaviours and activities through education. An illustrated summary of the chapter-by-chapter contents of this book is also displayed. In this chapter, I discuss the origins and ever-evolving concept of entrepreneurship through time. Exploring many perspectives in relation to entrepreneurship, I highlight the many economic, philosophical, political, and sociological considerations of entrepreneurship as evolved understandings became increasingly apparent through the 19th and 20th centuries. Drawing upon seminal understandings of entrepreneurship and original economic activity, this chapter progresses the notions of entrepreneurship rooted in economic theory towards its impact on modern business and society today. Entrepreneurship, Origins and Nature, concludes by discussing many examples of entrepreneurship in practice and crucially how this benefits business and education in the 21st century. In this third chapter, I underline the importance of entrepreneurship education for educational institutions. The increasing need for students to be equipped with enterprising skills and develop creative mindsets has justified the argument and need for purposive and relevant entrepreneurship education. This chapter discusses the progression of entrepreneurship education and its development within universities which we see today. The aspects of delivery and assessment methods, along with building valuable legacies, are also encountered as I highlight the varied and vibrant environments apparent from the now many entrepreneurship courses and certificated programmes. The what, how and when questions surrounding the teaching of entrepreneurship, as encountered in recent research, are also addressed. Practical worksheets are also referred to in this chapter in assisting educators, students, support workers and students alike. A critical aspect towards student, graduate entrepreneur and university success in general concerning entrepreneurship education, I discuss the importance of the development of entrepreneurial universities and their links with industry. In this chapter, the benefits of these industrial links, nationally and internationally, are detailed. Additionally, the concept of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, desired by many, is also visited. Small businesses, multinationals and governments all provide necessary support and expertise in enriching universities. This chapter focuses on how these relationships, through practice and publication, have aided in the formulation and development of creative, innovative and ultimately enterprising higher educational institutions. As I assert, this development strengthens entrepreneurial networks, encourages entrepreneurial mindsets and behaviours, and promotes entrepreneurial activity. Recognising, analysing and engaging with the organisational stakeholder has been a long-standing consideration and concern for business owners globally. Appreciating stakeholder theory and analysis informs business operations and can lead to heightened levels of economic success. In this chapter, I contextualise contemporary stakeholder theory within the educational environment, focusing on the progression of entrepreneurship educational practice. The key individuals within education, educators, support staff and students all determine the fortunes of educational journeys and the potential enterprising activity. These stakeholders embody particular roles and responsibilities centred on enterprise, which influence and impact upon behaviours, attitudes and ultimately entrepreneurial intentions. This chapter discusses and defines the many personalities or archetypes within higher education and how they shape the modern university. this chapter, I note the emergence of innovative and pragmatic forms of education that have dramatically changed the educational environment in recent years. As for entrepreneurship education, these forms of delivery and assessment advances the unique enterprising journey between educators and students and places the aspiring student within real-life scenarios, situations and enterprising spaces. Digitised and mobilised forms of education liberate students and practically addresses central hopes and fears surrounding higher education. This includes student aspiration, employability, graduate destination and support. This chapter conceptualises the modern university as institutions increasingly rethink their goals, activities and relationships within society and industry as a whole. In this final chapter, I reflect on the main points from this book in assisting productive and progressive teaching and support for entrepreneurship education. Ways in which educators, learning supporters and researchers can move forward in the teaching and support of entrepreneurship education are discussed. This includes assessing theoretical advancements such as rethinking for and refreshing the modern classroom. Also, engaging with preferred practices and reaffirming university and governmental policy, which strengthens distinct ties between education, industry and society in general. Products of entrepreneurship education, including the heightening of international and industry awareness to responsive and community-centric education, are also appreciated as the top field advances. So, I hope that some, most or all of that interests you. If you want to, you can provide a comment underneath the video. Catch you later.